Dear student, welcome to you all again in English class 8th, chapter 1st, the best Christmas present in the world. I hope you understood first part of this story. Again we revise a short summary of part first. In part first, the author bought old roll top desk from a junk shop and decided to repair it before Christmas. Then he found a secret drawer and a tin box, a letter in it with address. Then he started to read that letter. In part second, we'll see what the things had happened and what the incident had mentioned in that letter. So let's start part second, paragraph first of part second, explanation. The author read the letter. The owner of the desk must have put it in. The letter had been written by a captain of the English army. His name was Jim Macpherson. He had written it to his wife Connie because he addressed it Dearest Connie. A wonderful incident had happened on the battlefield on Christmas Day. Jim Macpherson had narrated it in his letter. In First World War, the British and the German army at the battlefield, and Jim Macpherson started to narrate the incident of that war. The English and the German were at war. The two armies stood in their respective trenches on the two sides of no man's land. Suddenly, Macpherson saw someone waving a white flag from the enemy side. White flag waving, it means that to indicate the ceasefire, means stopping the war. Then he saw many German soldiers calling out to them. They were wishing a happy Christmas to English soldiers. Some English soldiers shouted back, "Same to you." The English thought that was all to their surprise. Everything is surprise for them. How the enemies were shouting and means wishing them happy Christmas. It is all about beyond the imagination. They saw many Germans moving toward them. The captain was alarmed. It could be a trick, but it was not. They were bringing with them German wine and canned meat. Now there were no rifles between the soldiers. The German soldiers came towards the Britishers. They didn't have any rifles, they had only German wines and canned meat. They were hugging one another. The German officer moved towards Macpherson. Even their officer also came out and he also walking towards the Jim Macpherson. They shook hands very warmly. Then the German officer said that he was found from Düsseldorf and that he played cello in the orchestra. He gave his name as Hans Wolf. Now, Jim Macpherson also introduced himself as Macpherson. He said that he was a school teacher from Dorset. So this first paragraph of second part's explanation. I hope you understood the explanation. Now we will start second paragraph, second part. Hans Wolf smiled. He said he knew Dorset. In fact, he had never been in England, but he knew English. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book was Far from the Madding Crowd. It was from there had learned all about Dorset. Macpherson shared with Hans Wolf the Christmas cake his wife had sent for him. So they share with each other the canned meat and cake. Hans Wolf said that the the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. So they both appreciated the dishes what they were shared with each other. It was a wonderful Christmas party. While they were discussing, at the same time, a soldier brought a football. The soldiers played while Macpherson and Hansel clapped and cheered, and they started playing football. Hansel suggested that the world would be much better if the problem were resolved by a football match instead of war. This way, they shared each other's views regarding to war. It means that the conclusion of that they both were not in favor of the war. So, second paragraph, second part finish. I hope you understood the second part, second paragraphs. Now we'll go for third paragraph of second part. Explanation. After the football match, all the drinks and eatables were consumed. Now it was time to part. They completed their drinks and all the foods they shared, played football. This way they passed whole day, and now it was the time to take part. Hans Wolf saluted Macpherson and walked away slowly and unwillingly. Both the armies were going towards their trenches, but unwillingly, because they wanted to celebrate such a wonderful Christmas more. That night, the Germans were heard singing a choral. The English soldier replied with a rousing chorus of another choral. They exchanged carols for a while, and then it was all silence. Macpherson wrote in his letter that he would treasure those moments all his life. So this way, our third paragraph of second part finish. Now fourth. Macpherson ended the letter, hoping that the war would end soon. Both armies longed for peace, and he was sure they would be together again. This way, he completed his letter and he expressed his wish this war would be finished earlier and he might be at home very soon. So, now comprehension questions. Before comprehension questions, we'll read the new words. Word Tommy used to refer to common soldiers in British Army. Fritz, popular German nickname. No man's land means a piece of land which falls in the middle of the border of two countries. Parapet, the low protective wall at the edge of the place. Marzipan, a sweet covering on a cake made from sugar, eggs, and almonds. Thomas Hardy, famous English novelist. Far from the madding crowd. Fourth novel of Thomas Hardy. I hope you understood the second part. Now we'll read the comprehension questions. Question first: who had written the letter, to whom and when? Answer: John Macpherson, a captain in the British Army, had written that letter dated December 26, 1914 to his wife Connie. Question second: why was the letter written? What was the wonderful thing that had happened? The letter describes a wonderful event: the two armies, the British and the German, fighting against each other, celebrated Christmas together. Question third: what jobs did Hans Wolf and Jim McPherson have when they were not soldiers? Before joining the army, Hans Wolf played the cello in the orchestra and Jim was a school teacher. Question fourth: had Hans Wolf ever been to Dorset? Why did he say he knew it? Answer: no, Hans had never been to Dorset. He had only read about Dorset in Hardy's novel Far for the Madding Crowd. Question fifth: do you think Jim McPherson came back from the war? How do you know this? Answer: no, Jim McPherson from never came back home from the war. Perhaps therefore his wife Connie had preserved his letters. So this way the comprehension question finished. So this second part over. I hope you understood the comprehension question, new words and all the explanation of part second of the story. Now the remaining part we will continue in part third.